Greetings, and welcome to yet another edition of the Grindhouse. Tonight's film, I thought I'd do something, a little, dare I say, a little easier, just to review. Kind of a dark little no-brainer of sorts. And by that I mean it's just, slightly a little more straightforward plot-wise. And actually, it's also a film that's somewhat easy to riff to. Like if you're a fan of Mystery Science Theater or what is now known as riff tracks, this would be one of those type of films. Anyway, getting to the story, tonight I am reviewing Christian Bale, or as I call him on occasion, Death Metal Batman, in American Psycho. American Psycho is supposed to be a film based on the book by Bret Easton Ellis that takes place in the 80s. Now, for a film in the 80s, it looks kind of modern. It looks a little more modern than it, suggests. But there is, there are different points of the film that are relevant to the 80s. A lot of the music is, of course, 80s music. He reviews everything from, Huey Lewis to Whitney Houston to Genesis. And if you've read the book, there are actual chapters dedicated to those artists. And interesting piece of fun fact, if you will, Whitney Houston, before she had passed away, had threatened to sue, I assume probably Lionsgate Entertainment, if her song "The Greatest Love of All" would have appeared on the movie or the soundtrack. And the reason why was apparently, I'm assuming she had watched the film and got all, pissy about it. So they had to go, and they had to basically throw in an instrumental track during that one scene where Patrick Bateman, Bale's character, talks about her music. I thought that was kind of interesting. Another piece of info I found out a while back was that Glenn Danzig was supposed to supposedly cover The Lady in Red. Okay. I gotta admit, that would be kind of interesting to hear that version. In any event, the movie itself is basically this guy. He works on Wall Street. His name is Patrick Bateman. He's a Wall Street executive type of character by day, / serial killer more or less by night. Kills off a few hookers, a homeless guy. The movie itself is very, it's kind of trimmed. If you read the book is a lot darker. The book is a lot more graphic. If the movie was done by the book, there'd be no way that this movie would be released, unless it was straight to video. And probably NC-17. There's no other way. There's those who have read the book know of some of the scenes, if they watch the movie, that basically, if you read the book, you know there's one scene in particular. I won't go into detail, but when you think about the timeline and the fact that he kills off one of the girls in the story, it kind of makes you wonder if that wasn't the person that the book was basing the murder well, I shouldn't say weapon, but the method of murder with. The movie itself is, it's pretty dark, but it's not what I'd call, it's not even really what I'd call a horror movie. The character is unlikable, to say the very least. I kind of find myself not really, you know how they say you're supposed to care about the character in order for a movie or a book to be successful? Yeah, sure, okay. But you also sort of want him to get his payback. And sadly, the only payback he gets is not knowing whether or not he actually committed the murders or whether or not they were all in his head. Hence, it's kind of an interesting story in that sense. There's also the scene with the Huey Lewis and News playing in the background, where, let's just say, every time I hear Hip to Be Square, I think of that one scene. Jared Leto is also in it. He plays one of the chief murder victims, Paul Allen, which I find a little kind of comically humorous because he also played the Joker in Suicide Squad, and Christian Bale played Batman in the Christopher Nolan Batman films. Sadly, you never saw the two of them together in that part of the DC universe. Overall, I liked the movie. I thought it was pretty good. It's definitely, it's supposed to be a satire, supposedly, on being a yuppie. But they kind of trimmed down on the comedy, as much as they more or less trimmed down on the bloodletting. Comedic-wise, it's a dark comedy of sorts. Movie-wise, it's decent. I didn't hate it or anything like that. Let's see what else. There's the scene with, Reese Witherspoon. She's in it. I think this was one of her movies. I don't know if this was a movie she made before she got bigger. Like, I think she was probably bigger in, like, some of the other movies she'd been in, like, say, Sweet Home Alabama, or the Legally Blonde movies, or one of those types. This one, she was only in a few scenes, technically. And she played the fiancé, of all people, to Patrick Bateman. Also in the film is Justin Theroux. This had to be one of his first films. This was way before he met, married, and then divorced Jennifer Aniston. So, I assume that, actually they changed his name. In the book he's known as Timothy Price. In the movie he's known as Timothy Bryce. I don't know why the name changed either. Some other parts of the film kind of made me wonder. I've read the book like probably 2 or 3 times now. The book itself is slightly darker, slightly longer, slightly more descriptive anyway. Aside from that, I can't really think of too much else to say. This movie went straight, not straight to video. It was in theaters for probably a few weeks, but it went to video pretty quickly after that, and that's how I first found it. Actually, how I very first found it was pay-per-view. But this is supposedly I don't know if this is the director's cut per se, and if there is a director's cut, I don't think they add much to it. I don't know. I could be wrong. But I'd have to see an actual director's cut if there is one. But in any event, this has been the Grindhouse. And I will probably be reviewing another film next week as we get closer to Halloween. Some of the other films I'm thinking of reviewing, I'm thinking I might review, I don't know yet, but I'm thinking I might want to review this movie, P.D. Wheatstraw, The Devil's Son-in-Law. It's a Rudy Ray Moore film. Kind of a comedy horror movie. Like a 70s Grindhouse type of film. If you've ever seen Dolomite, that's pretty much Grindhouse, blaxploitation material. But in any event, this has been the Grindhouse. And until next week, or until we meet on yet another episode, farewell.